Tell me, Simon, I saw one of your videos recently where you were talking about the right of abode and the right of return. Could you elaborate a little more on that particular new policy and what people would need to know as African Americans or Africans in the diaspora to make use of that new policy for Ghana?
So the right of abode, it's not a new law or a new policy per se. I mean, it was passed in the early part of 2000
okay.
by a couple of presidents ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gave opportunities to not only African Americans, but Ghanaians who have taken up other naturalization in other countries, such that they have lost their Ghanaian citizenship. So this right of abode law actually came in force so that people can return and then go through a process where they would be able to take up their Ghanaian citizenship and just be like Ghanaians. And so you have these two groups of people, Ghanaians who possibly hold passports from other countries, and then the word is Africans in the diaspora. And to be honest with you, that alone, that word Africans in diaspora is actually questions are being raised on it, asking, who is an African? You understand? Who is an African? And so there is a bit of tussle on that aspect of that law. However, what it does is giving people the opportunity for them to be able to come and stay in Ghana, be Ghanaians, do whatever they want to do, whether it's business, whether it's just taking up the citizenship and then going and coming, whatever you want to do. So that is the basics of the right of abode law. There's another thing that I think we also need to be aware that since this law has passed, there has been a lot of information, whether it's online or so. Just as we were going to do this interview, I wanted to pull out the sort of the Ghana immigration law and specifically sort of read exactly what it says, so that it would be very much important for us to know what the law says and what the law requires. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to pull it up and then possibly read it the way it says, so that we can appreciate what the law is talking about, if that's okay.
Simon, go right ahead, please.
So what it says about a person of African descent is in the diaspora to be considered for the status of right of abode if he satisfies the ministers that he, number one, is of good character, as attested by two Ghanaians who are notaries, public lawyers, senior public officers, or other class of person approved by the ministry. So if they say now you want to come to Ghana and apply for the right of abode, you would need a sort of a Ghanaian who has been, if I can say, if it's been approved by the Ghanaian government or it's been approved by the Ministry of Interior, for that person to be able to attest that you are of a good character. Now, how do you, as somebody who hasn't been in Ghana before, get through such a hurdle?
Yes.
And so, certainly, that is going to be something that people will be talking about, asking questions that I am in the United States. I mean, wherever I am, I don't know these guys. How is this going to be possible for me to be able to prove that I am of good character? So what I'm hoping for and what I'm thinking is, these guys are certainly people who are in the public domain. So they are lawyers and public figures. And so, and definitely wherever you are in the United States, there are records and there are things that we know that there's credit checks, there's criminal records bureau. There's a lot of things that we could be able to get that information from. So that is going to be a burden for the Ghanaian authorities who need to attest for these guys. I hope you're with me. And so, although it's something that we need to work through, that is what the law says, and that is what I think people need to be aware, that you will need somebody to sort of say that you are of good character, and we hope that that process would be easy. And then it says that that person should have independent means. You need to be independent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean, you may say it's vague, but my understanding of independent is you should be somebody who can take care of yourself, both financially, emotionally, physically, and you should be able to be ready to take up employment.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so I mean, if you go onto my YouTube page and the pages that I've put video on, there are people asking so much questions, and somebody actually asked a question that, do we do things like food stamps? Do we do things like our social system? And so, and I had to tell him that, you know, Ghana is not like that. You know, our social system hasn't developed such much in the UK, Europe, or America, whereby people are enjoying social benefits. So the benefit system is not like in the US. And so this independent bit is basically, I think it's talking about economic independence, where you don't have to come and then thinking that you're going to live off the government or come, because there's no place for that. And so that is what we need to understand. And the next one, it says that it is in the opinion of the minister capable of making a substantial contribution to the development of Ghana. And so whoever is wanting to come to Ghana, we are hoping that you can contribute to Ghana's development whichever way. And there are so many opportunities which I think we're going to go through. And there's so much available for people to come and contribute. I don't think the government is asking for people to probably come with big businesses or a lot of money. Everybody's got a skill to contribute. And I think that is what it's looking at. It depends on who you are, what you do, your experiences, what you've been able to achieve, and just general being able to be part, because every Ghanaian, as it is now, is being asked to contribute to the Ghanaian economy. So if you are coming, it's the same way. It's being asked that you come, and you're going to be, if you're going to be a Ghanaian, it means that you are going to live in Ghana and be a Ghanaian. That's all. So that's why it says. And then that person should also attain the age of 18. So that is the last bit of the requirements, where you need to be 18. But then this is the question. Supposing somebody is coming and that person has got kids, you've got family that you want to move over who are not 18. I think there's room for that, because obviously there's always going to be the person who is starting the process. Is either the family head, whether is the father or the mother, and then the kids are going to act as dependents. So I don't think that's going to be a problem when they need to be able to structure that. So this is basically what the law says, and there are things like what it's the advantages, if we can go through what you get if you become a Ghanaian, or what if you go through the process of getting the right of abode to be in Ghana. So what it says is, one, the person with you then get like an indefinite status to stay in Ghana. Indefinite status, it means that, fair enough, you are here, you don't have any restrictions, you are part of society, you can go and come back to Ghana as you please with no immigration restrictions. It will entitle you to enter Ghana without a visa for the rest of your life, for you to be able to work in Ghana, take up employment, for you to be able to have a self-employed, if you want to work, you want to work for yourself, start a business, or if you want to work as a contractor, whatever you want to do, and you would be subject to the laws of Ghana. And so if you're going to be a Ghanaian, it means that you need to be ready for these things. So I think that's basically what the right of abode law talks about.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent. Thank you. And what else, would a person need to know, aside, in your opinion, from, the right of abode? For example, what's the standard of living like, for example, in your country? That is, if I brought a certain amount of money or attained a certain level of income, what kind of standard of living could I expect living in your country? I mean, would I be able to, for example, rent an apartment in a quiet, nice area, or maybe buy some land or acquire land from a traditional chief and set up a homestead or something of this nature. What do you think?
This question has come up a lot of times, and I think it's something that we need to take it from different angles. The first thing that I would say is, one, the standard of living is nothing like in the States, and it's nothing like in Europe once again, or other parts. Every country is different, and so from that point of view, it gets very difficult for you to be able to put numbers down, saying that maybe if I bring $1,000, if I bring $5,000, if I bring $50,000, it gets very difficult in terms of how long you want to stay. What does the future holds for you? And so for us to be able to look into that, and for anybody, that's what I would say, for anybody who would want to take up this program, who would want to come to Ghana, I would say that that person needs to have a taster. I would encourage that person, what I would call the taste of Ghana, because it would be very, very, very shock. I mean, it could be a shock to you if you haven't been to Ghana before and you decide that I'm going to go to Ghana and then stay. I mean, I wouldn't recommend that.
Okay.
And so for you to be able to understand, one, how the currency works, because if I mean, at the moment as it stands, one, because Ghana, we have our currency is Ghana cedi, and at the moment a dollar, it's around 4 cedis. Okay. And I don't know what a dollar can buy in the States. Okay. I mean, I don't know if you want to say, and so that I'll compare. So whatever the dollar can buy in the States, it's well possible that 4 cedis can buy more of that, or in some instance it could be less of that, based on the product that you're going to buy. And so what I would say is, things that Ghana doesn't produce, or things that are foreign, gets expensive in Ghana, and vice versa. And so if you come to Ghana and you are ready to, let's say, live like a Ghanaian and live like a modest Ghanaian, where you are ready to eat the local food, where you are ready to live in a barely comfortable area, but not necessarily where I would say the rich people live.
Right.
If you are ready to understand and live like the ordinary Ghanaian, let's say the medium Ghanaian, where the average Ghanaian works, or the average Ghanaian lives, then I would say that it wouldn't be any different from maybe you living in the States, where you are keeping your head down. Right. I may say, you see, so because the life in Ghana, it's you have all the class systems that you can have in any part of the world. So you have the lower class, you have the medium class, the upper class, and then you have the people who are super rich. It's the same. And so people have got money in Ghana, where I can say they have money more than maybe a certain amount, 50-60% of people in the States. They have people like that in Ghana. Then you have people who don't have anything. And I know that there's a group of people in the United States who are also struggling. And so it's like that. And so I would not be here to say that, oh yeah, you can bring $5,000 and it'll be okay. No. Let's look at how you can come to Ghana and possibly live for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. If we can organize that, if that can be done, where you can say that, okay, if I come to Ghana and I want to use a hotel, or I want to use Airbnb, which is also now people using it a lot. I want to live in Accra. I want to live in Kumasi. Because every single city has also got its own dynamics. And so if you're living in the capital, Accra, the life and it's different, standard of living is high. But if you move to the second city, which is Kumasi, it's totally different. The standard of living is about 50% reduced. And so, but then Kumasi has also got everything that you need to be able to live. The difference is Accra has got all the government departments where the head offices are, where the business happens. And so depending on how and where you want to live, that also would give you an idea how much you need to spend. And so I think that the conversation on standard of living can start from individual basis, and it can actually be relevant when you've gone to have a taster. I think that is what we need to start, because I've seen that a lot of people are giving advice on YouTube, on Facebook, telling people, oh, I went to the States, I had $5,000. I went to Ghana, I had $1,000. I went here, and I wouldn't be the person doing that, because lifestyles are different. Somebody will go to Ghana and will be happy to would be happy to eat the food that I eat. Somebody will want to visit the restaurants and then the nightclubs.
I see.
And so it varies. But what I can say is there is opportunity and there is a lifestyle for everybody in Ghana.
That's great. That's exactly the kind of thing that people like me are looking for. You mentioned earlier about the possibility of business opportunities. As an entrepreneur, if I came to Ghana, I would be looking for ways to not only be self-employed, but also to run a business and to find ways to solve some of the problems. What would you say are shall we say, the most immediate problems in Ghana or in various cities in Ghana that outsiders could help to solve, for example?
To be honest with you, I think that is where the conversation needs to go. And I believe that when this right of abode was passed, that is where the focus of the government is. Although fair enough, we want people to come to Ghana, but if people can come and they can bring expertise, they can bring jobs, they can bring some form of, interest, which would help the economy, I think that is what we want to encourage, to be honest with you. And so over the past few weeks, people who have asked questions, everybody is showing that they have something to offer. And so it's encouraging that, yes, people want to come to Ghana and then offer something. And I would say that the opportunities are varied. Currently, let's look at areas like farming.
Okay.
If we take farming, which is one of the things that people have seen interest there,
Yes.
and it's also something that the Ghanaian community would be ready for, because as we all know, the land that we have is fertile. If I show you things that can grow up in my back garden, things that can grow up anywhere around where I live, you'd be surprised, because the land doesn't need much to grow fruit.
Understood.
And so if we know this is what we have, but then we are still not food independent, you understand? We are still not, we can't, if you put the numbers together, we still can't feed ourselves in terms of the food that we need. Exactly. I mean, we still import. We still import food from other parts of the country, of the world.
Tell me something. What percentage, if you can give me a rough estimate, what percentage of the Ghanaian population is even involved in agriculture or the routine growing of food? And do you think that figure needs to be higher?
I don't think that it's to do with the number of people doing farming. It's to do with the scale of farming that they are doing. And so you could get 70, 50%, or you could even get 90% of the people doing farming. But if the scale is not enough to be able to feed the country, because this is what you have. You have a farming community that needs to provide food they need to grow crops, harvest it, and then that goes into consumption directly. But then you have industries who also rely on food for their business.
Right.
And so let's take things like something like corn. You have a lot of industries that rely on corn for their beverages. But then we don't have enough people into corn production over the year. Because what we are looking for is we are looking for type of farming systems whereby you would be able to have consistency and you will be able to have production over the years. It shouldn't be that when there's rain, we can farm, and whenever there's a dry season, then there's a problem. And so the conversation is to do with farming systems and the commercial basis of what we can grow, what we will be able to get for people to consume, and then how we can then channel more into industries. Because what farming does is, farming, in just doing farming, then brings another type of business, which is the manufacturing side of whether you're going to move into food processing, whether you're going to move into drinks, beverages.
Right.
And so you realize that it's also another aspect of business that can come up. Apart from that, then you have the logistics side of farming, where people can go into setting up logistics companies, setting up transport companies, tracking companies that will move these products and these crops from the farm areas right into the consumer areas, or right into the production areas. And I think that's also another business that people are not exploring. And I believe I've done a video on it before. What is happening is you have people doing logistics and transport businesses. But what happens is every single year, Ghana loses a lot of food based on just harvesting. And by the time it gets to the consumption point, about 30% food is gone to waste. All because packaging is a problem. Storage is a problem. Transportation is a challenge. What we are saying is, supposing we can bring this 30% that is going to waste back into consumption, it means that already we will helping ourselves by being food independent, because at the moment, these percentages is going across various types of food. You're talking about corn, you're talking about cowpeas, you're talking about mangoes, you're talking about tomatoes. There's a lot of food product that goes to waste, just because by the time it is harvested and by the time it gets to the consumption part, there's a lot of food that's going to waste. This is food that could be turned into good use. And so if people can invest into food processing, if people can invest into storage facilities, because there is a whole life cycle of one particular food. And if you can see if you take a particular food product and see how it can go through the system, and then at the end of the day, then we should have a form of plants that can channel or that can move these food waste into other form of renewable energy, which can also be helpful. So just taking agriculture and food, this is how far we can go. Let's come to services, so let's come to other soft skills that people have. Education. There is a lot of gap in terms of people who are willing to come and teach, or people who are willing to come and offer their services and their skills in terms of academics and education. And so, yes, people who are teachers or people who are sort of tutors in any subject, I think that there's a possibility of that. I think people can actually come, and one of the things I've done before was I was talking about people who can come and set up things like let's say creche or nurseries, just helping nursery and children who are growing up. And it's something that goes very well over time. You realize that you start getting more people, you set up, people are coming as they grow, you start introducing, and it's all about getting the right licensing to do that, getting the right approval from the Ministry of Education to set up. And so There's a lot of opportunities on that side. Let's look at consulting for people who are into business and all that. Ghana is growing, businesses are coming. And so if you are somebody who is interested in offering your services on that angle, the financial sector is booming, the communication sector is good. People who want to come and invest in communication, IT, there's potential, to be honest with you. And I always say that is the last continent that is left, to be honest with you. And this is where, and so if you look at what's going on, if you sit in a plane now and you're going to Ghana, you realize that if you're Ghanaian, you might be the minority in that plane. There is a lot of foreigners going to Ghana because they've seen the potential. They've seen that this is a country where, I mean, just look at the population of Africa at the moment.
Yes.
More than 50% are under 40.
Yes.
What that is saying is, if you get into a business with somebody, and I had a conversation with a gentleman, and he just made it so clear with me. If you have a business with somebody now, let's say somebody like myself, it means that for the next 30 to 40 years, we are going to be in business, provided I'm still alive. God bless.
Yes.
You understand? So
gotcha.
you have a young population who are ready and who are eager to work. And so it's just bright, and it just makes sense that people who are willing to come to Ghana for business, just knowing that, yes, there are going to be challenges, which I hope we're going to talk about, but in the end, this is the time. This is the time you have to be able to come and see what is there and see how you can also get in.
Oh, that's good. Suppose I decided I wanted to come to Ghana and I know nothing about farming, for example. Would I be able to, partner with someone who owns land, or a traditional chief, or someone, and start a farm, maybe start a small scale farm, and then work up as opportunity and income allowed in order to provide food for the local population and possibly even for export? Do you think that kind of opportunity, that kind of dynamic exists for someone who just wants to get away from where they are and start afresh with maybe limited skill sets, who's willing to work hard and learn from the locals instead of coming and saying, hi, I'm here, I know everything, but someone who's willing to be humble and come and get their hands dirty and maybe start something from scratch? Is that kind of potential? Things that, I don't want to say, are they that bad, but are they that good in a sense that the potential is so great that someone could start as almost a rags to riches story, because I see a lot of people on the continent, throughout the continent, starting with nothing and, making, decent livings. But I'd like to know if you think someone from outside could come in with that same kind of, maybe with the same kind of enthusiasm, but with fewer street smarts about life in Ghana, and be able to make the same kind of transition.
Yes, I really believe that, because it's well,
that's great.
It's open. It's an open market, if I can say. And it's a market that is ready, and people are already there. Like people from Southeast Asia, we've got people from the Far East, we've got people coming from Europe with their businesses and with all that they want to come and do. In terms of farming, yes, and interestingly, what we have started, I can say, in a very small way, and I'm trying to build a sort of a network of farmers, both in Ghana and both in all over the world, to be able to connect, to be able to have a conversation and see where and how they can benefit each other. So, and it's going very well. I mean, recently we just started a page, and people are coming on board. We've got a WhatsApp page, we've got a Facebook page, and people are eager to share. And I think that is where it can really benefit people, because you have locals who know the land, who understand what to do. You have Ghanaians who are also overseas, who have started farming in Ghana, and they do go and come every now and then. Then you have people who are in the United States of African Americans who also want to come and start something. I think coordination and collaboration is what we need. And so, yes, there is also a very good African American community in Ghana, which has got people who have been in Ghana for quite some time. And so there is good networking, there is good support system, support base. And I would say that it all depends on you, the individual, and how committed you want to be. Because once you come to Ghana, and I would say that once you come and have that taster that I'm talking about, and you believe that it is farming that you want to do, obviously there's various communities where you can go and then look at. If I say the land system is such that, and now we're then looking at, I mean, because at the moment what we are talking about is, supposing you've gone through the process, and you've gone through the right of abode process, where you are now considered as a Ghanaian. Yes, then you are Ghanaian. It means that you can negotiate, you can look for a land, you can obviously buy a land, you can lease. There's also lease systems. You can go through, and it's the same as maybe a property where you want to live, or whether you want to build, or whatever it is. So there's various range of what is available. And so I wouldn't keep that down as a challenge. No, not at all, because people are ready to help, people are ready to support, and it will need a bit of trust, which is also very key for you to be able to get the right people, the right networking, the right support system, the right liaison for you to be able to go through this process easily.
That's good. You mentioned some WhatsApp groups. Would you care to name them for the sake of the viewers?
Yeah. So we've started a Ghana Farming Networking Group. And we are basically getting interesting conversation over there, because you've got people who are in various stages of their farming prospectus. So you have people who are just about thinking, probing, and asking questions. You've got people who are just about buying land. You have people who have actually started. Interestingly, when I started this channel, I had started having a conversation with a Ghanaian who was living in the United States. And he had started a farming business in Ghana. He actually started a farm in Ghana. And throughout our conversation, I decided to talk to him. We started sort of supporting him on various aspects. And as we speak, he's in Ghana, in Volta region, and his farm is started. And he harvested his first corn, which is really interesting. So the prospects are bright, and so people should not be so worried about what is coming. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great. So if someone like myself who knows nothing about farming, they could go to your WhatsApp group and at least begin to probe the various questions and make the kinds of network connections that they might need, even if they're not sure which way they want to go. A lot of African Americans, spend a lot of time looking here and looking there. They don't quite know what they want, because in reality, life in America is not as great for them as it appears to be from the outside. If you're an African and you're looking at African Americans, things aren't all that great. I mean, there's new outrages every single day in the United States, and a lot of African Americans are looking around and they don't quite know what they want. So it sounds to me as if one of the places they might want to start is your group or your groups. And if someone is going to, you know, make that transition, would they need, aside from just the a letter of introduction or the good word, would they need any legal services besides, you know, getting, say, a letter from, you know, a traditional chief or a friend or even a relative in Ghana? Are there any legal hurdles beyond the ones you've already described that they should come prepared to pay for in order to begin to make the transition? Because once people see this film and they start, you know, their mind cracks open and they start thinking, a lot of people who see it are going to start wanting to get into the process. So should people be preparing to lay down, you know, a few dollars, for example, you know, for legal services? Or is this the sort of thing that can be done purely by the methods you've described without having to go to court, for example?
Yeah, so interestingly, I started looking up online, looking for the fees, because this is going to attract some form of fee from the Ghana Immigration Service.
Right.
What I haven't seen is there are a lot of fees with regards to if somebody wants to come as a visitor in Ghana, if somebody wants to come or if maybe the person is got employment and coming to stay with work. So there are a couple of fees, and I think maybe after this video, I will send it to you for you to look at it and see where you can fit it somewhere. Okay. And so those fees are there once you have to buy the application forms and then go through the process. Okay. I believe that the Ghanaian embassies would be very key in this process, because I'm not expecting anybody to come to Ghana then start the process.
Right. And
so what I'm hoping for is yes, and I know that the Ghana embassy in the United States is in DC, and so people would have to start making contact. That should be the first point of contact, because yes, we are here trying to give people information, but all that we are trying to do is there are official lines where they would have to speak to people, and then because it could well be that because this law was passed in 2000, it could well be that because the government is trying to push this agenda, and when the president was making the declaration, what he said was the government is going to make it easier for people to acquire visas. I don't know what that means. Right. It would well be that now maybe the process is going to change. It could well be that now they're going to add other elements that will make it well easier for people who want to come. Okay. And so people need to contact the Ghana embassy in Washington, D.C. and other parts of the world where the Ghana embassy is. And they need to tell them what they want to do, and the conversation will start from there. Okay. I know that for sure, if people want to go through their process, as with every kind of, people can be able to do it themselves. You can buy a form and then do it. But there are other law firms and law providers, services, who would want to give their support and give their services. It's like any other immigration process, where you can certainly do it yourself, but if you're not sure and people are there to be able to support you, yes, there would be, and it might attract a fee. So I would say that the first point of contact is the Ghana embassies, and they pick the conversation from there. And certainly, and as you just said, now this video will go out. If afterwards people have got more questions, they can come back to you, they can come back to me, and then we'll try and see how we can together give them the information, the little that we have. But yeah, that's why it is.
Well, that's good. It's been my experience that when a person wants to apply for a job in the United States, the best advice that they can be given is always ask for the job. So I will ask you, if I were to apply for citizenship or right of abode in Africa, would you or someone you'd be able to introduce me to be able to offer me a letter of introduction?
Oh, I mean, we've just started this process, and
Right.
if as I say here now,
Mm-hmm.
I qualify as somebody who's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to give that letter of introduction. Yes, obviously,
Okay.
because this is what we are trying to do. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would need to now go and look into what it takes for
Mm-hmm.
somebody to introduce people who want to come. And if they're saying, because what they say public figures, and usually what they say when they say that, they're talking about people who work in the public services. So they're
Right.
talking for like people like doctors, lawyers,
Mm-hmm.
nurses, people who can, let's say, be traced in terms of the government departments. They would
Mm-hmm.
have a sort of a history with the government work. So yes, I don't think that will be a problem when it comes to the introduction bit.
Mm-hmm.
The government needs to be clear, and we need to be able to understand the criteria and how somebody will be able to introduce a person. I think there will be room for that. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's fine. Thank you, by the way. Who knows?
That's
You
all
know,
right.
there might be an industry here, you know, for introducing African Americans back into the diaspora, legally, of course.
You never know. You
Yeah,
never know. Yeah.
you never know. You never know, brother. Um,
Yeah.
Let me ask you
Absolutely.
something. How do Ghanaians, from your perspective, even feel about African Americans or any foreigners, you know, from the diaspora coming back to their country and you know, living in their neighborhoods and buying their land or partnering with their traditional chiefs and you know, just sort of moving in. Uh, I mean, what's the word on the street about the overall general attitude, if there is one? Is it acceptance or indifference or something in between? What do you think?
What I can say is this particular is a declaration, and it's something that has been there since 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if you look at, even way before the right of abode law was passed, we've had a lot of African Americans who have come to live in Ghana for good. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was a child, I've seen people who are living, and sometimes you realize that they speak the language that you don't speak. And so
Uh-huh.
yeah, we've seen African Americans for years. And so it's not going to be a surprise. It's not something that people are frowning on,
Mm-hmm.
because in the end, Ghana is a society that is very well.
Well, that's great.
But yes, we consider ourselves as one of the most friendliest countries on earth, to
Well,
be honest.
that's
And
good.
we've enjoyed a lot of peace over a
Mm-hmm.
long period of time. So it's I wouldn't it would obviously there would be a few. I mean, in every society there would be some people who would have negatives around a policy like that. And
Mm-hmm.
even on my on my YouTube page, you can see the conversation is going on, and it's a conversation that's coming from both sides. There
Mm-hmm.
are people, African Americans in the United States, who are not happy, who don't even like this declaration. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that this is an individual and a personal decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nobody is being forced to take up this right of abode.
Uh,
It's just an opportunity for you to
mm-hmm.
just take up another citizenship, or to be able to be part of another culture and another society.
Mm-hmm.
That could only benefit you. It doesn't mean you are going to lose your United States or your American citizenship. I don't think so. And so if you want to come, I believe that majority of Ghanaians will
Mm-hmm.
not, we wouldn't even realize, because
Mm-hmm.
we currently, as we live, we have people from different parts of the world
Mm-hmm.
who are working, who
Right.
are here. We've got people who are actually started their business for the past 50, 60 years in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
People who have lived in Ghana, and they are not Ghanaians, but we have third generation foreigners who are now living in Ghana, and some of them now speak the Ghanaian languages.
Mm-hmm.
You can see they might not look like you, but
Right.
you are with them and they understand whatever you are saying.
Right.
So it's a society that's been ready for a very long time. What this is trying to do is trying to bring people who actually are just like us
Mm-hmm.
into our fold, and I don't see why there's going to be any problem. So yes, I think you would be comfortable if you're ready to live as the way Ghanaians live, if you're ready to help build a community, if you're ready to just be yourself and just come. There's a lot, and I keep saying there's an African American community in Ghana who are living as Ghanaians, who are living in the coast, who are living down in some of the farm areas, and I can only say that they are happy. Every time you speak to them or you see them, you can see the freedom that they are enjoying, and it's one of the things that Ghana has got to offer. I mean, when I was growing up, I can see there's this freedom, there's this natural air that you breathe, there's this I mean, environment where it's a community based, everybody is each other's keeper. I mean, we've enjoyed this community bonding for so long, and I think that it could only be positive for African Americans if they are ready to take up this program.
Well, I can think of a lot of African Americans who I've talked to, who I've overheard talking on trains, talking about, things, are not so good for their lives. And those questions that you got earlier on your news feed about food stamps and things like that, I think I've tackled some of that myself in some of my own films, in my Africa Open for Business series. But I think there are a lot of African Americans who are looking for something, they know not what, and they would probably be very happy at, if at first, but certainly over time, to free themselves of the shackles of racism and perhaps accept a more natural way of living instead of living by the false standards of the West, where even the poorest person in some cases, has a dog they can walk, or a plasma TV, or living on the dole from the government, which is completely unnatural. I've told people before, to my knowledge, there's no welfare state in any African country. Speaking of which, before we conclude, at least for this segment, can you suggest, to your knowledge, if there are any other African countries near or afield from Ghana that are offering similar programs related to the right of return or the right of abode, to your knowledge?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, Ghana is the first country that's doing this, and I think it's going to be something that other countries might look at it. And I mean, it's not a surprise, to be honest with you, Ghana being the first sub-Saharan country to get independence.
Right.
And so for us, we started attracting African Americans and people from the diaspora since the 50s, and it has continued. So there is a very good bond between Ghanaians and African American communities. And if you have conversations, you've got people who have actually been able to trace their DNA and their ancestry way back to where I come from. And I had a conversation with somebody a couple of days ago, and he's African American, and he was saying that I should look at his headship. He's an Ashanti, and I said, yeah, I wouldn't doubt that you can pass as an Ashanti because you look just like me. So yeah, it's very interesting. But I mean, other countries will pick it up, I hope. And there's not a lot of difference, especially within the West African region, where most of us eat the same kind of food. We might not speak the same language, but our cultures intertwine, and it will be interesting to see how this goes and how people take it up. I'm going to say that there's going to be challenges. Nobody says it's just going to be a smooth ride. Obviously,
right?
It's like, even if somebody move from Africa or move from a very, should I say, poor background or poor society and goes to the Western world where everything should be there. There's still challenges because you need to adjust. And there's the culture is one thing that you need to be able to be aware that, yes, there is a culture and there is a traditional culture. There is a religious culture. There is the secular culture as well. And all these are working within a society that you want to be part of. And so you as an individual need to understand yourself. You need to know where you are at the moment and be open-minded that I'm going into a culture where people will look at me differently, and it would be sometimes worrisome, or some people might be worried when they experience a sort of a culture shock, if I may say, where you realize that you get to Ghana and things are not the way you expected. And so I'll go back to my taster days that, yes, people need to have a taste of Ghana first. And so, yes, it's interesting, but with people, somebody spoke to me about and asking questions about the medical sector. I mean, how is the Ghana medical system like? And I said, we are there, we were all born there, we've lived there, we all go through the medical system. But it's not like the United States. And so the government is trying, we are trying to make it better. People it could be better than the way it is. But that is how society is, and this is what it is. You have medical facilities that you might say it's not good enough, but then you also have others which are really good. And we have both the government health insurance, and we also have the private healthcare insurances there. Based on maybe somebody where you work and based on the type of job that you do, companies actually have insurance policies for their employees. And so there are various scenarios and various dynamics across the country where it depends on where you feel yourself and where you're going to be. You just have to understand how that works. So yeah, challenges might be there, but it's something that we can work through it. And this program, I would say, it's not for everybody. So yes, as with all things, people who are committed and people who are ready to just, you say, to leave all that they have and see that there is something that they can have new. Yes, I think it's the right time.